Please read the statement of adequate notice.
In accordance with Chapter 231 PL 1975, the Open Public Meetings Act, adequate notice of this meeting has been provided as required, specifying the time and location, with such notice as being sent to the Asbury Park Press and the Times of Trenton, posted on the Municipal Public Notice Meeting Bulletin Board and filed with the Township Clerk.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it. Would everyone please stand and join us in flag salute? I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. Would you please call the roll?
Chairman Newman.
Yes.
Committeeman Ziner.
Present.
Committeewoman Zabrowski.
Here.
Mr. Beck.
Here.
Mr. Coffey.
Here.
Mr. Lambros.
Here.
Ms. Sinha. Here. And for the record, Vice Chairman Cato, Mr. Pepe, and Mr. Perino are absent today.
Okay, and please confirm we have a quorum.
We do have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. All right, before we get started with the formal agenda, this is an opportunity for public comment. Is there anyone here as a member of the public that would like to approach the board on anything that's not otherwise scheduled for discussion? Seeing none, we'll close the public comment portion and move to approval of the minutes from the September 11th meeting. So those minutes were distributed. Did anyone have any comments or suggested revisions? Would someone like to make a motion to approve the minutes?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so we have a motion.
I'll second it.
We got a second, thank you. Any other comments? Seeing none, Danielle, please call the roll.
Chairman Newman.
Yes.
Committeeman Ziner.
Yes.
Committeewoman Zabrowski.
Yes.
Mr. Coffey.
Yes.
Mr. Lambros.
Yes.
And that is it. Thank you.
Okay, there are no resolutions to memorialize, so the agenda has two applications. Danielle, you want me to proceed in the order that they're listed here?
Yes, please.
Okay, so the first is a request to amend conditions of prior subdivision approval, Block 57, Lot 27.02, 15 Pine Drive. Is there someone here on behalf of the applicant?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Kenneth Pape of the firm Heilbron Pape on behalf of the applicant.
Mr. Chairman, this is a request for modification of conditions of a prior resolution from some time back. Therefore, under MLUL, notice was required for this meeting. I've reviewed notice. The service is in order. The board does have jurisdiction to proceed with the case, and I'm aware of the following exhibits that the board has received thus far in connection with the application. They include the jurisdictional notice, Exhibit A1. Exhibit A2 is the application, checklist and administrative forms. Exhibit A3 is correspondence and prior submissions. Exhibit A4 is a proposed 60-foot conservation easement deed and description. Exhibit A5 is a minor subdivision resolution from board number 99-07, memorialized on May 26, 1998. Exhibit A6 is a partial survey dated August 4, 2000, with proposed pool drawn on survey. Exhibit A7 is subdivision deed for Block 57.01, Lot 27.02, filed on July 29, 1999. Exhibit A8, existing conditions survey consisting of one sheet prepared by DMC Associates, that's dated June 10, 2024. Exhibit A9 is a zoning denial for an in-ground pool dated September 8, 2023. Those are the applicant's exhibits. Exhibits for the board. PB1 is the engineer's review dated July 29, 2024. And Exhibit PB2 is the planner's review dated August 7, 2024. Those are the exhibits that I'm aware of that the board has received thus far in connection with the application, and Mr. Pape is here on behalf of the applicant.
Okay, please proceed, Mr. Pape.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, members of the board, board professionals, Kenneth Pape on behalf of your applicants. Seated behind me are Mr. Buca and Darlene Rossetti. They are your applicants. They're the owners of the property that is known as 15 Pine Drive. They purchased that property in 2015. It is a roughly 7-acre parcel with a very handsome, well-maintained single-family residence. The property was created by a subdivision that was approved by this board in 1999. And the subdivision was perfected by the filing of deeds. What I would like to do is go through some of the history of the approval process with you, and also go through the history of the title. There wasn't a mistake, there was an oversight that occurred in 1999 that has resulted in our clients owning this property without any knowledge of the prior approvals and prior conditions. They learned of the conditions when they made an application for a swimming pool, and Ms. Sim pointed out that a conservation easement was something that should have been recorded 25 years ago, but wasn't. So Michael and Darlene purchased their property. They purchased it in 2015. The property, and the property was improved at that time. There was a single-family residence with a horseshoe driveway and underground utilities. The underground utilities were gas and electric, and I have secured the easements that were granted for those underground utilities. They were granted in 1999 and in 2001. That's when the utilities were, it appears that's when the utilities were installed. They were represented by competent real estate counsel when they bought the property, Linda Fellon, who is a known real estate attorney. She took all of the proper steps. She did a full title report on the property. The title report was provided to me. The title report indicates that there were easements for underground utilities and a road widening, but there's no other easements that were of record. The property was surveyed, and there was a mortgage closing, and title policy was issued. And when our clients acquired the property, the deed that they received did not have any restrictions listed in it. Prior to their purchasing the property had been owned by no less than 4 other entities. And each one of those deeds did not include any restrictions. The only restrictions of record were created when Vincent Halloran did the subdivision deed in 1999. And before I go through that deed, I'll go through the approval that took place. There was a subdivision request of approximately 15 acres that came before the board in 1999, and the subdivision approval was granted. And it was granted with conditions. One of the conditions was no further subdivision. And that condition made it into the subdivision deed that was filed. Another was that there was to be no clearing of the property except for a single-family residence. And that made it into the deed. But the last one that did not make it into the deed was a comment, it was comment number B, that said a 60-foot wide portion of the property on the easterly border shall be preserved as woodlands. That was in the resolution of approval, preserved as woodlands. When it was reviewed, when the plans were reviewed and the deeds were reviewed, there was a resolution compliance review letter that was issued by Gordon Milnes. Gordon Milnes was the engineer before Mr. Shafai came here. And Mr. Milnes, in his review letter, stated that the preservation language must appear in the deed. The deed was then prepared and delivered to the town. The town reviewed it and signed it. George Zanatakis, the planning board chair, and Madeline Gilbert, the secretary, signed the first page of the deed, and the deed was then recorded, and the 2 lots were bought. The property was then sold a lot of times. It went in. The subdivider was RTR. RTR sold the property to the Hafeez, Hafeez, in 2000. The Hafeez sold it to the Capodanas in 2005. It appears that shortly after that, the Capodanas lost the property in a foreclosure. I shouldn't say shortly because there's a gap in the history. There was a lis pendens filed. There was no foreclosure documentation, but then the next deed is the property is owned by the Bank of New York. And then in 2015, the 4th transfer was to our clients. The reason I give you that background is that there is no way that Mr. Buca or Ms. Rossetti would have knowledge that there was this condition. Today we're asking the board to modify that resolution. The modification request is this. They have no issue with creating a 60-foot wide easement on the easterly side of their property. In fact, it's been prepared. Mr. Shafai's office prepared the legal description. They have no issue granting that easement so that the 60-foot long, along that entirely top of the property, is in a conservation easement, as was the intention of that resolution. However, there are 3 improvements in that 60-foot easement that are there, that have been there since long before our clients purchased the property. There's a red line, and that red line is the underground electric. And if you come down a little bit lower, there's another line that's coincidental, it's underneath the driveway, and that's the underground gas. And then you see that the driveway at the nearest Pine Drive is in that 60, in the front yard, is in that 60-foot area. So the request of your applicant is that you amend the resolution to accept a 60-foot conservation easement, all their entire easterly border, subject to those pre-existing conditions. In a memo that was written by Mr. Stibe last winter, he indicated if the board considered this relief favorably, that there should be a clear description of the driveway and the utility so that they are memorialized with certainty. We have no issue with that. In fact, we can take this document and this surveyor and create that attachment. There was also a request in my letter delivered to the board in May that the property not be put into a woodland management plan. Mr. Buca has advised me that he intends to put it into a woodland management plan, and he and I have both been in contact with the arborist who is ready to register the property and put it into the woodland management. So that request for relief of not being required to be in a woodland management plan is rescinded. Mr. Buca and Ms. Rossetti are here if there's any questions that anyone has of them, but that is their plight and that is their request.
So just repeat, what is the ask again?
The ask is that the language that says that I'll read the language that was then perpetuated in Mr. Milne's report. Just one second. And then I'll give you the replacement language. Resolution 9907, a resolution for granting minor subdivision approval, variances and waivers to Ratko Kalukovich, had a condition that appears on the 3rd page as B, and the language reads, the easterly side yard setbacks of proposed lot 2702, which adjoins lots 28 and 36, shall be 60 feet and shall be preserved as wooded. And we're asking that that be amended to say the same language, 60 feet, preserved in a conservation easement, subject to the 3 pre-existing improvements that have been on the property for the past some 20 years.
Okay,
That's it.
that's the only ask.
That's it.
Okay. Any other questions or comments from the board? And the board would like to go on record by saying we weren't the board back then. And you weren't the attorney, so,
Not on this one.
yeah, Danielle, you weren't here, right? Yeah, she would never let that
Any of
happen.
us, it goes back, what, 25 years?
It is
Yeah.
25 years, yeah.
Yeah.
Wasn't born then, right?
You want me to answer on the record?
That's more than it.
And I could see a modest amount of confusion. It didn't say preserved in a conservation easement. It was a little loose, and I'm guessing that's what caused it to just slip by back then, but no
Mr.
worries.
Chair, Gordon Milnes picked it up, June 16th, 1999, his resolution letter. He picked it up, and he says in his letter, he says, the easterly side yard setback of proposed lot 2702 shall be indicated as 60 feet on the plan and shall be located in a conservation easement to preserve its current wooded condition. It was perfected by deeds, not by plan,
Yeah,
and the language never made it into the instruments. So,
okay, well,
Got lost.
never too late to right the wrong. So unless there's any comments or questions, anything from our professionals?
Quick question, so the woodland management, is that for the whole property or just that 60-foot area?
Mr. Buca will hire a woodland manager to manage all the woodlands that are on his property.
So there will be no more tree clearing on this property?
Interesting, there's never, since Mr. Buka has owned it, and he can come up and, but Mr. Buka has never taken a tree down.
And I agree, I looked at websites, it's been the same, yeah, I have
Never
no
took-
argument there. So woodland managers is not just 60 feet area, but the whole
The woods.
property?
Yes.
So
All the
any-
woods.
All the woods.
Yeah, not the yard.
Okay, so Mike, slightly unique application, is your legal suggestion that we proceed with a motion to approve in our typical process?
Yes.
Is that, okay. All right, would anyone like to make a motion on this application?
I'll move it.
Okay, thank you. So we have a motion to approve. Mike, are there any particular conditions that we should focus on?
Well, the conditions will be those that Mr. Pape already indicated that are in the resolution, that they're going to provide the 60-foot wide easement. It will be subject to the underground electric, it will be subject to the underground gas, and subject to the portion of the existing driveway that is there, that encroaches into that area. And there's going to be a description,
Yeah.
specific description of the easement area.
Okay, all right.
And I made some references to stormwater management in my report. You could actually delete that too, because when I looked at when the driveway was put in, all
Yeah.
that stuff was before 2004.
Okay.
So you could ignore my stormwater management comments.
Yeah.
Very nice comments
Sorry.
on that.
So
I'm
I
glad you
have a
laughed at
question.
McKinley.
So the property was bought as is, the way it is right now. And you're just modifying, the writing in here. Now, what happened later? This driveway can be moved, this driveway is gonna stay where it is.
Right, right.
Nothing is gonna happen to it, just is gonna stay as is, particularly the driveway, right?
And the underground utilities. And-
Yeah, because they run into the house anyway, whatever the property is, house, whatever it is.
Okay, so we have a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry, Danielle reminded me, there was a comment in my memo that I had forgotten about. This was when the applicant was still asking to be released of the condition to implement a woodland management plan. I had suggested putting the rest of the property in a conservation easement, but since they are going to implement the woodland management plan, I also redact that comment, similar to that.
So Matt and McKinley, do you either swear or affirm that any testimony you have given or may give in connection with this application is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I
I
do.
do.
Good. All right, thanks for fixing that, Mike. Fixing a lot of stuff tonight. All right, so we have a motion, we have the proposed conditions. I'll second that. So unless there's any comments or questions, Danielle, would you please call the roll?
I'm sorry, who was the second?
Oh, I did it.
Sure.
Sorry. Chairman Newman,
Yes.
Committeeman Ziner,
Yes.
Committeewoman Dabrowski.
Yes. Yes.
Mr. Beck,
Yes.
Mr. Coffey,
Yes.
Mr. Lambros,
Yes.
Ms. Tinton.
Yes.
Motion approved, seven.
Okay.
I need a note to go home this early.
That's good, right? You want to hang out for the next application?
I'm gonna watch the Mets and Yankees.
Yeah, text me the score of the Yankee game. How about that?
They won tonight, Phillies,
sure.
They love last time.
Okay, next item on our agenda is US Tank Painting, Inc., Block 16, Lot 9.06, 900 Reich Drive. Is there someone here on behalf of the applicant?
Yes. Hi. Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Let me make sure I have a mic here proper. Peter Klauser with the firm Heilbrunn Pape on behalf of the applicant. Partner Ken Pape was just in here.
Mr. Chairman, before Mr. Clauser starts,
Please.
let
Thank
me
you, Mr.
advise the board that I've reviewed service in connection with the application. The service is in order. The board does have jurisdiction to hear this matter. In addition, I'm aware of the following exhibits that the board has received thus far in connection with the application. They include Exhibit A1, that's the jurisdictional notice and proof of service. Exhibit A2 is the application with checklists and administrative forms. Exhibit A3 is the prior correspondence and submissions. Exhibit A4 are the required outside agency approvals. Exhibit A5 is a list of proposed witnesses. Exhibit A6 is a traffic report prepared by McDonough and Ray Associates, consisting of 3 pages dated June 25, 2024. Exhibit A7 is a planting plan prepared by Curic Landscaping LLC. That's one sheet dated July 1, 2024. Exhibit A8 is a statement of environmental impact and assessment. That's prepared by Crest Engineering. That's dated November 16, 2017. Exhibit A9 is a site as-built plan prepared by Crest Engineering. That's one sheet dated October 3, 2019, revised through February 15, 2024. Exhibit A10 is a survey of property prepared by Crest Engineering that consists of one sheet dated October 3, 2019, revised through June 13, 2024. Exhibit A11 are architectural floor plans and elevations prepared by 3D Architecture, consisting of four sheets dated October 26, 2022, last revised on April 11, 2024. Exhibit A12 is a preliminary and final site plan prepared by Ronald Sadowski that consists of five sheets dated March 22, 2024. Exhibit A13 is a stormwater management plan prepared by Crest Engineering that's dated February 29, 2024. Exhibit A14 is an elevation rendering prepared by 3D Architecture, consisting of one sheet dated October 26, 2022, revised April 11, 2024. Exhibit A15 is a site plan rendering prepared by Ronald Sadowski, consisting of one sheet revised through October 9, 2024. Exhibit A16 is a prior resolution, Planning Board Resolution 17-06 for U.S. Tank Painting Incorporated. That's dated February 14, 2018. Board exhibits include PB1, your engineer's completeness review dated August 14, 2024. Exhibit PB2, your engineer's review dated September 18, 2024. Exhibit PB3, your planner's review dated September 24, 2024. Exhibit PB4, the Environmental Commission's report dated September 23, 2024. Exhibit PB5, the Fire Bureau review that's dated August 22, 2024. And PB6, the Shade Tree Commission review dated September 27, 2024. Those are the exhibits that I'm aware of that the board has received thus far in connection with the application, and it's over to Mr. Clauser.
Mike, site plan is 6 pages, you said 5.
Okay, and Exhibit A12, I will correct that on the exhibit list.
So the number
6 pages.
S0, S1, that's why it was, I already yelled at him.
So the record is correct that A12 consists of 6 pages.
Great. Good evening again, everyone. I am the attorney for U.S. Tank Painting, Inc. This is an application for preliminary and final site plan approval. We have some bulk variance relief. The applicant is a citizen of Millstone already. They operate their business in the Moto Industrial Park. The property is improved with 2 buildings. One is an office and sort of a shop area, and then in the rear there is a warehouse building. Our engineer will provide you with better details than that. It's an exciting application because your applicant is growing in town. It's a successful business and they need more room. So they're seeking to expand both the warehouse building and add additional offices to their property. The applicant's requesting some bulk variance relief. Some of it is a pre-existing condition, some of it is a pre-existing condition that's exacerbated, and some of it is new variance relief to allow for the space that the applicant requires. In addition to that, you'll see that the applicant's improving parking, landscaping, their stormwater management system, septic system to accommodate these improvements. Before we came to this board, we had met with your professionals to get some guidance. We also were in front of the Environmental Commission and the Shade Tree Commission. As is always our pleasure to do before we appear before the board, we want to make sure that we have their comments. This evening I have 5 witnesses. That sounds like a lot, but some of them are very short. I have Brian Batchelor, who is a representative of the applicant, so he can speak to you with regard to the business's needs, and the operations on the site. Then we have Ron Sadowski, who's the applicant's engineer. He'll obviously describe the current conditions and the improvements to the site. Then we'll bring up the architect, who's Joe Primiani. He's filling in for Bill Doran, who had a conflict tonight. And then we have, I'll go to John Ray. So John Ray will do a traffic statement. When we filed the application, part of your checklist is to provide a traffic impact statement, and we did. So I want to make sure that the traffic engineer was here to talk about that. And then lastly, we have Jim Higgins, who is a professional planner. I wanted him here to speak to the board with regard to the proofs necessary for the variance relief. So if I could, I'd like to start with Brian, have him be sworn, please, and then I'll ask him to share with the board his relationship to the applicant.
Sir, raise your right hand and be sworn. Do you either swear or affirm that any testimony you give in connection with this proceeding will be the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And state your name and address and spell your last name for our,
I'll spell my first name and my last name since my mom spelled it wrong, people say. It's Brian, B-R-Y-A-N, last name Batchelor, B-A-T-C-H-L-E-R. You want my home address, not the address of the property?
your home address or the property address.
53.
Your home address is fine.
53 Poplar, P-O-P-L-A-R, Fairhaven, New Jersey, 07704. And the owner and I were college football teammates. We worked together in New York out of college. And I came on board in 2017 as his chief financial officer. He tasked me with building a building, which other than doing a building project at my house at Fairhaven, I had no idea what I was doing. I had a lot more time on my hands. The businesses were much smaller at the time. It was a little bit of a nightmare. We did hire a lawyer. It was not, he did fine, but it was not Peter, and we did not have an extensive team. I know Crest still helped us on the project, but we were very overwhelmed at the time. I'm sure you're probably looking at me going, hey, why didn't you do a much bigger building in 2018? We just had no idea. We had absolutely no idea we were going to grow the way we grow. Hired a couple. I had a mechanic that lives in town in Millstone. Hired him at 18 years old. He's a rock star. 5 years later, hired a young lady who didn't have any sales experience, and she just was a really amiable person and a great personality, and she's been tremendous. So we hired her, and then we hired an inside sales girl, and so we went from having no women to all of a sudden we have 6 women working for us, doing really well. And you know, just the sad part is that we don't really have the bathroom spaces, the capacity. We're busting at the seams. And it's tough to be efficient and productive there. So we're currently renting 3,000 square feet in Freehold. I'm actually running that office over there. We'd like that 3,000 square feet to be over here in Millstone so we can all be together. We can pay tax dollars to Millstone Township instead of rent to Freehold, which is very expensive. And it'll be a lot more cohesive in our ability to run our business together. So we are confident that now what we've proposed will actually meet the needs, and we're not going to have to do a subsequent addition. We're also aware that we will have no more room left to build or do anything else. So we do have another office in Youngstown, Ohio, like a little satellite office with a few employees and stuff like out there that's 10,000 square feet as well. So we are certainly growing.
Thank you. Could you talk just a little bit about how the site functions? The warehouse in the back, the shop, and the offices up front?
Sure. I'll start with the offices and kind of work our way backwards. We have a very small office. I mean, it's what, 1,300 square feet from the existing original office. We were packing, as a chief financial officer, I handle all the financial stuff. I had 4 people in my office in a not 15 by 15 where I had a desk here and somebody else at a desk there. And, you know, you're talking, it's very unprofessional in that regard. So we're looking for relief in that area where we can have, as you can see the proposal, there could be all kinds of individual offices. I know over in Freehold, I currently have my own office. We have conference rooms. We have, you know, areas where you could function. So that's the first area. And then as you move back, we have, you know, certain warehouse workers that will go and, you know, receive any type of supplies that we have coming in or rental equipment when it comes back from a customer. We have drivers that will go and pick up the equipment or deliver the equipment. We do our own deliveries. We'll have a couple of trucks, you know, come in once a week, or a truck come in once a week to deliver some abrasive in bulk. But other than that, you know, we just have guys back there working hard. You know, we put in an ERP system, so I think that helps us communicate, making a huge commitment to software, which is not cheap, as you guys I'm sure do know, but it makes you more productive, more efficient. So the mechanics go back there, they have their bays, they take care of, you know, maintaining the equipment, and it's kind of what we do. We've developed a lot of huge customer base. We pride ourselves on our reputation of, top service and making sure that we try to help businesses be successful and, save money on costs in the field, because labor in this industry that we service is the most expensive thing.
Now, there is there's an open area, paved area in between the back of the shop building and the warehouse building. So when you were here last time before the board, the applicant's representations were that there not be any outdoor storage in that area. Now, outdoor storage is permitted in this zone, but it requires certain screening. And so we would like to ask the board for permission to use that area in a certain way, not necessarily for storage, but if you would explain for the board how it would be used as a staging area.
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, I want to apologize to the town and to the board. We've had equipment lined up, out in the front yard, all over the place. There's nothing else to do with it. I mean, we rent some property in town as well to store other stuff, and we're doing the best we can. We're trying to run our business, at the same time trying to be compliant. What Peter's talking about is when equipment comes back, again, we're going to bring it inside, we're going to take care of it, we're going to make sure that it's, proper, ready to go. And then what we'll do is, when we know it's going to go out on a Monday, we want to put that equipment in the staging area outside, so then we don't have to go back in to go get the equipment, because we need to hook it up and be ready for our drivers to efficiently go and deliver the equipment. So it's just more of a, if you understand how our equipment operates, if you have this, even if you think you have this huge warehouse, well, if this piece is in front of that piece, it's very big equipment. Some of these things are, I don't know, 25 by 14 or whatever they're 14 feet high. It's big equipment. So that's what we're trying to do.
So not really storing things out there permanently, but
No.
there would be stuff outside while it's waiting to get picked up, or while it's waiting for space in the warehouse to be made so it can be moved in.
Correct, when it just comes back. I mean, listen, for us as a rental company, we want all of our equipment out there. We want it out there where it's being rented, where we're making money. We don't want it back at our place. That's the last thing we want to do.
Yeah, when you say out there, you mean out in the field, not out on this property.
Correct, out on people's jobs.
Right.
So we're making money. That's how we make money.
Okay. There was a question in the report, maybe just to talk a little bit about how your garbage recycling deliveries to the site are made. Could you just speak to the board a little bit about that?
Yeah, we used to have two different areas, and I know there's an area with the dumpster. I believe it gets picked up once or twice a week back there, as far as you're talking about the garbage.
Mhm.
Yeah, and the recycling, yeah, that gets picked up just back there. It's in the corner. We have Matt helped us with a nice fire lane where it comes around, where we learn not to block that and everything like that. So it's pretty seamless. in that
Your
regard.
office supplies, I'm assuming, are UPS, small box trucks, things like that?
Yeah, we'll get it from Staples. We'll usually have that delivered.
Okay.
Yep.
There are, in order to get some of the stuff inside, you have some containers out there that we know have to go. And we're going to remove those containers from the site, but you would like to ask the board to consider if it would be possible to keep a couple of containers in between the two buildings.
Yeah, I mean, I always am trying, and I'm sure you guys know this, as a chief financial officer, I'm always looking to try to save us money. I'm trying to make sure things, work financially. But, the owner is a little bit, different sometimes. He's looking at things his way. My chief operating officer is looking for things his way. And he's got to be sure that he can still operate and make sure that we have storage for everything and things, are nice and neat and tidy and stuff like that. So as far as the containers are concerned, we do have them lined up very nicely right now, and we want to be able to move them, certainly out of that area. But we wanted to know if we were able to, if there is space still on the property where we could at least keep 2 or 3, just in case there was something that made sense to store in there, because the building is going to get filled up very quickly.
Can you show the aerial from your sheet S1 so board could see what containers we're talking about?
That'd be great.
Is it on the site plan?
Yes.
Yeah, it's on S1, right on the right-hand side.
You had a question too, Mitch?
Yeah, my question was, is the area, just exactly where Matt's going, is that outdoor storage area that you're looking for between where the two buildings are?
I mean, I think because the fact that we're asking, we would be.
Yeah, right there.
There is right there, yeah.
We would certainly not expect to be able to keep all of them.
But right between those two buildings with almost the blue shaded roofs is that storage area?
That's the staging area that we discussed earlier in the testimony, and maybe moving a container or two in there to be there permanently.
Are any of the things we see right now containers?
I think, if you don't mind, I'll get up.
No.
I think what you're talking about is over here. These are containers. This is still our property line, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
These are
just saying, you
containers right
said
through
they
there,
were
yeah.
stacked
And then there might be
together
some containers
neatly.
through there. They are stacked together neatly.
Okay, just, so not being confrontational, but
No.
on one hand, we're looking to expand the facility and the warehouse, but at the same time, it's not enough. So why do you need the storage containers if you're doing the expansion?
Mitch, trust me, I asked them the same questions. I think they're just a little bit, they're always, you know how some people are hoarders? I think truthfully, I think that they would just like to have, maybe if they had 2 or 3, just in case they had something that, for whatever reason, it was something that, let's say something you weren't going to use at all, that you didn't want to have in the other area where it wasn't in the way, if that makes sense.
So is it like small pieces of equipment that are in these containers, or like
No
how large
equip-
are they?
No equipment. It might be hose, like something like
Oh.
vacuum hose, or you can't believe
So
how.
you're basically using it as a shed then, in other words?
It could be.
That's a pretty good description of it. And also, I don't want, I'd like to be clear with the board, that I don't want the application to live and die on this. If this board has absolutely no appetite for allowing any of the storage containers to be in between the 2 buildings, I'm not fighting for that. We just want to mention it to you. The goal is to get what you see out there into the new buildings, and then maybe plan ahead a little bit. If we have a little bit more storage with those containers, we're saying it now. But if it's something that this board has no appetite for, we understand that. But
Yeah, my encouragement would be focus on what you need and want, and then if you've got us in this incredible mood, push a little bit, but the later it goes, the less the mood sometimes.
Got it.
Just to confirm for the applicant and the board, that would trigger an additional variance relief. There was a new outdoor storage ordinance passed this year, and pod storage containers are not permitted, so it would trigger one more variance.
Yeah.
All right, so let's step away from that for
What
right
is
now, and let's
the-
move on
Let's
to.
go a little bit deeper into that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is-
McKinley, do you either swear or affirm that any testimony you give or may give in connection with this proceeding, the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I
Same
do.
thing with you, Matt.
I do think.
Going to your comment, are you saying that the container storage would be a non-permitted use, requiring a D variance and taking this board out of jurisdiction?
Yes, actually, I do believe it would.
Oh, then we're certainly not going to go there. We'll figure out what we want to do in the future when it comes to that.
Yeah.
I was unaware of that ordinance, and I apologize for not being aware of it.
It was adopted in May, and I don't think it's made it to E-code yet.
Okay.
So,
Okay,
I
then
apologize, and I didn't know it was part of.
getting containers off the site, and if we need to go see the zoning board, we'll go do that.
There's also a 20-foot wide fire lane that goes through there, just in case you didn't know.
Yeah, circulation-wise. All right. I have no further questions for Brian. I try to hit the comments that were in your professional reports, because I don't know all of your comments. But Brian's available for any questions that the board or your professionals may have.
So the last statement I want to make, before you,
Sorry,
any
Brian.
other questions would be, we understand this is going to be a process. If there's not only do we have to go through this board, so we're hoping we can get approval sooner rather than later, but then we have to go through freehold soil, and we have to go through the RCC and all these other things too. So we're hoping to be able to build within a year, because we continue to pay, this 2-year lease that ends not this December, but next December in freehold, which, like I said, is a major hindrance to our business and our ability to operate. And as you can tell, it's a little bit of an eyesore for the town, a little bit of an eyesore for our neighbors, and we don't want it to be that way. We want to have a beautiful, we're making a commitment to put a lot of money into this, to have a beautiful area where we can efficiently and productively operate, but also keep the Moto Park beautiful. So.
Okay. Any further questions for this witness, Matt? Go ahead.
So this is U.S. Tank Painting business. Is there any other businesses in here?
So Matt, that's a good question. We have a consolidated financial, okay? TS Group owns the building. It's a LLC owned by Tom Solkowski. Tom Solkowski is also the owner of U.S. Tank Painting and Sandblast Solutions.
Sandblast Solutions.
Sandblast Solutions does not perform any work. Sandblast Solutions rents equipment.
Any other company name associated in here?
No, just US Tank and
That's it.
Sandblast Solutions. US Tank is our union contracting arm that goes out and paints water towers. Done that for the last, since
What's the
20 years.
biggest equipment you have that may not fit in this warehouse?
Yeah, the recyclers, Matt.
There are some there.
The recyclers would never be on this property. The recyclers, or at least, well, they would never be on this property. They would be, they're out in the field. They're 40 feet long, maybe something like that. But they're always out there on the job sites. If they ever come back to be maintained, they will. The building is 60 feet deep, so it will fit in, so they can go.
So it could fit in the building?
Yes, no, it will.
How
yes.
high is it? How high are these?
Our buildings,
No.
14, under 14 feet, so they can go through, that's why we do the 14-foot doors. We don't store them at our property, we always store them over at Guitars. We pay Guitars rent as well, so we can keep them over there in parking spots.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So which building are you looking to extend? The one in the front or the one in the back?
Both.
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 We have a lot more employees now, and we're adding office space, bathrooms, all that kind of stuff, so the employees can operate. We're also trying to plan a little bit for the future as we continue to hire people. And then we're doing the warehouse because we continue to buy more equipment, and we continue to have more people that operate back there, and they need space.
Can you just confirm the existing dumpster you have is sufficient with your expansion? You're not really producing that much more waste because?
No.
Okay.
Yes, that's a good question.
Great, thank you.
Okay, unless there's anything for this witness, should I just save the public for later?
I would do it one at a time, and just get it
Yeah.
done.
Okay, all right, let's do that. Maybe we'll figure out who the public is.
Yes.
At this time, we'll open it up to the public. Does any members of the public have any questions for this witness? Seeing none, we'll close the public comment portion, public question portion. Your next witness, please.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you. Brian, come on up, Ron. Ron Sadowski is the applicant's design engineer. He's responsible for the site plan that's in front of you, so I'd ask if he'd be sworn and if he would place his credentials on the record, and I'm asking the board to accept Ron as a professional engineer.
Sir, do you either swear or affirm that any testimony you give in connection with this proceeding will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And your name and address, spell the last name for the record, please.
Ronald J. Sadowski, S-A-D-O-W-S-K-I, 10 Edward Avenue, Edison, New Jersey, 08820.
Ron, if you could share with the board your credentials and that your license is current as a professional engineer in New Jersey.
Yes, I'm a 1988 graduate of the New Jersey Institute of Technology with a Bachelor of Civil Engineering. I received my professional engineering license in 1994 and have been actively testifying as a professional for 30 years, and I've been before this board in the past.
Okay. Thank you, that's acceptable.
Thank you.
very much. Ron, I want to get out of your way for the first part of this. If you could just talk a little bit, we have to get it on the record, the existing conditions and then what the proposal is.
Yeah, I think if you don't mind, we could probably use, instead of the rendering that I prepared, we could use that S1 drawing. I think that would kind of describe better, being that there's text, and if we could just zoom out on that a little bit. So we can see the whole, okay, here we go. So there's currently, can you hear me? Everybody hear me? Good. There's an existing office space of 1,260 square
Excuse
feet.
me, Ron, the mics aren't picking you up.
She wants to get it. Make sure we get it on the
Yep.
recording.
Thank you.
So there is an existing one-story office building of 1,260 square feet, and also an existing one-story shop/storage building, which is 4,950 square feet. Then there's a asphalt paved area, and then a one-story warehouse of 9,600 square feet. Currently, there are 11 parking spaces with two-way traffic that service the three buildings. There's a fire lane that circulates or navigates the back or the central part of the property and then exits one way onto Reich Drive. What we're proposing is to add a second floor to that existing office space, an additional 1,260 square feet. Adjacent to that, we want to expand the office with another addition, a two-story addition, each floor 1,260 square feet. So the new building, the two-story building, will be 2,520 square feet. The existing shop and storage area will remain as is, but behind the existing one-story warehouse, we want to construct an additional one-story warehouse of 13,480 square feet. Directly behind this addition, there's wetlands, a wetland buffer, some just environmentally sensitive areas that we are staying out of as part of our construction. Included in our proposed buildings is angled parking adjacent to the one-way fire lane for 20 parking spaces. That is to facilitate the expansion of the office and the expansion of the warehouse. We're also proposing, and now if we could please go to the rendering. Takes a little time. It's okay. Here we go. You can see the light green areas is what is grass, and then the darker green areas are wooded areas and edge of woods. What we're also proposing along the front of the office expansion is a landscaped area, trees, shrubs, foundation plantings, and also adjacent to the existing parking area, likewise, we're proposing additional landscaping. It's come to our attention through the board review or the professional review that we are deficient of two additional shade trees on the site, which we will plant within the property. And what's not shown on this rendering, and it's not shown on any of the site drawings, is there's a need to remove one existing tree to construct the new two-story office. What we'll do, we'll work with what's required. It's, I believe, an 18-inch diameter tree. The tree replacement ordinance is specific as to how many trees need to be replaced. We will revise our drawings to show the proper replacement of those trees. There were some other comments brought up within the professional review with respect to parking. There's a need for 2 handicap parking spaces, one for each facility. Currently, there's 1 on the site. So what we will do, and it's shown on the rendering in red, is we will provide the a second handicap space adjacent to the expansion of the warehouse. There's currently 2 electric vehicle charging stations on the property. We will be adding a third, and that third charging station will be within the existing ADA parking space, which is required by code. So there will be 2 ADA parking spaces, 3 EV spaces.
And do we meet the parking requirement based on your calculations?
Yeah, we originally had 20 new parking spaces, which was exactly what was required. By code, with the electric vehicles, for every electric vehicle, you then gain an additional credit parking space. So for the 3 electric vehicle spaces, we gain 3 parking spaces in our counts. But we also then lose a parking space because of the van accessible handicap striping. So we're down to a net gain of 2. So we'll have a surplus of 2 parking spaces based on the square footage use on the property.
We received a report from the fire department. I bring it up now because it's relevant to the width of the driveway, and there was also a variance that was highlighted with regard to the width of the driveway along the angled parking. Can you talk a little bit about that, please?
Yes, the plans that were prepared show the one-way drive aisle of 16 feet, and we will increase that width to 18 feet to meet the ordinance and then to also meet the fire department's review letter.
Contemplating a variance there, but once we saw that the firemen wanted the larger roadway, we felt that the redesign was a better choice.
That's correct. And in addition, I know it hasn't been brought up yet, but when we were looking at the aerial prior, all of the storage containers were along where we're proposing our new parking, and there was also equipment parked in that area as well, which was within the front yard setback. So all of that will be eliminated from the front yard setback to eliminate an existing variance condition.
There was a discrepancy between the square footage on your plan and the square footage on the architectural plans. Who's right?
The site plan drawings would show an addition for the warehouse of 13,480 square feet is the correct number.
So we'll make sure that the architectural plans are revised.
That is correct.
Is there any new, one of Ms. Merck's questions was if there was any new fencing that's part of the application.
No, there is no new fencing.
Then let's go back to, you have an ordinance in town that if there's a certain amount of fill that's brought, I'm going to get this wrong, but I just want to tee it up for Ron. If there's a certain amount of fill that's brought beyond a threshold, that the planning board has to approve that. So Ron, if you could just take us through where you got to in your conversation with Matt.
Yes, I spoke with Engineer Shafai about the predicament we have because I did some rough numbers and I was getting close to 400 cubic yards of material either being exported, imported onto the site. And I know 400 cubic yards is the magic number. That's the cutoff where over that you need planning board approval for that. And so Engineer Shafai said it would be a good idea, if you're close, to ask for the approval now, so that if we find we're 410, 420, and we didn't seek it and get it tonight, we'd have to come back. So that's what
Out there counting every cubic yard, so.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Foundations, footings, yes, so.
So should that board act favorably on the application, we asked that that be part of the approval, and I think it was Matt's suggestion that the two of them will figure out what the exact number is.
And if it's approved, obviously you have to do application for.
Correct. The forms and fees we will agree to, yes.
Certainly.
Now, where is this 400 going?
I'm sorry?
Where is the 400 cubic yards going?
Well, that'll be part of the
They're not sure. yet.
permit. That's right.
We're just trying to plan ahead so we don't have to come back here again and waste your time.
That's your excavation? That's your excavation, 400 cubic yards?
The
Footing excavation, blended,
I mean, there may be where we can fill in some areas with the excavated materials, if it's suitable. But I haven't done the exact calculations yet, because that, we have to take into consideration the slab, the underlayment below the slab, footings, et cetera. So that all adds into the number.
Okay, and you're obviously going to test it for contamination.
Correct.
And things like that.
Yes.
Yeah, I believe that's part of your application process and why you have that in place. And then just, generically, have you reviewed the technical comments that are in the Shade Tree report, Ms. Mertz's report, Matt's report? You have any questions or concerns with complying with any of the technical comments?
No, I feel we can comply with all of the comments.
Okay, and obviously you designed the site, the septic system, the stormwater management system that's on site to accommodate the additional impervious.
That's correct. What I did not mention is there will be pervious pavement for all of the additional parking and the expansion of the drive aisle.
Where is the stormwater system? I don't
Well,
see
the stormwater system is off-site. It's a regional basin,
it. Okay.
so there's a swell here that we can see. If we wanted to go to the drainage plan, we could see some of the
Now, you could just
piping.
talk me through it.
Yeah, but it just, basically, there's an existing system that then drains to the top left corner of the property, and what we're doing is we'll be making some modifications to that, but the majority of the work will be porous pavement in the where we are proposing new parking.
One of my comment was that the water table was too high where you were putting first asphalt. Did somebody look into that yet?
No, we have not, I believe, looked into that yet. Ask Jay.
Jay's saying yes. Yeah, so we have a little bit of a two-headed
Yes?
we have a bit of a two.
Is the porous pavement asphalt or
You
concrete?
need to address that. I haven't
Yeah.
seen anything on that, so.
And yeah, sure. I'm
Porous
sorry.
pavement, what is it, asphalt or concrete?
It's porous pavement, asphalt,
Asphalt?
asphalt.
Okay.
Stone layer, heavy, thick stone layer below.
Wait, so just responding to Matt's comment, you're going to look into the water table to evaluate the porous asphalt?
Yeah, because Crest Engineering, as you, I'm sure will remember, designed the original industrial park, they have all of the information. So we had Jay Patel from Crest Engineering backing up Ron Sadowski, and when we received Matt's report, that was part of the comment, and Jay said, yeah, I have to look at that, and I'll work through that with Matt. So we're aware of it, and
Okay, so it'll be addressed and adjusted to Matt's satisfaction?
If it doesn't, they're coming back.
Yeah,
true,
yeah. But Jay seemed to be comfortable, which is why we were comfortable saying it.
Okay, just
I-
make sure Mike gets that specific.
Any
condition.
changes to your freestanding sign? Are you adding, changing anything?
No.
Can you talk about site lighting?
Yes, there's existing site lighting for the 9 parking spaces, and we are also providing pole-mounted signs, pole-mounted lights, I'm sorry, for all of the new parking. We are meeting the requirement for .3 for the minimum for the parking and an average of .5. We are exceeding the .5, we're exceeding the .3.
Okay, great.
Are you gonna review the variance setbacks with this drawing, or are you gonna use a different drawing?
You've got one out in front of me. I was just going to ask if he could put on the record all the dimensions for the variances, because obviously we need that on the record for Jim. So if you could, maybe just take us through the variances that we have. We need to get them on the record.
We have an existing nonconformity for lot width, required 250 feet width, and we have 246. The front yard setback is 100 feet. Currently, we're at 85, and we're proposing to maintain that 85-foot front setback. One side setback, 50 feet. Existing, we're at 50.8, and due to the construction of the warehouse, we're reducing that to 20 feet. Combined side yard, 125 feet is required. Currently, there's a variance of 103 feet, and we're increasing that variance to 70.9 feet.
And the side yard setback is to the solar farm?
That's
side,
correct,
right?
yes.
Okay.
Can you go back and review the 20-foot
20
one
feet,
again?
that's one, what was the one with 20 feet?
The 20 feet is the side yard for where we're proposing the warehouse addition. That's adjacent to lot 9.05, which is the solar farm.
And if I could comment quickly on the front yard setback requirement, when they were built, they were conforming to the front yard requirement, but we meaning the township, changed the ordinance to increase the front yard setback for the zone, putting them into nonconformity, so
Yeah,
they.
that's a pre-existing.
So it's pre-existing, except that they are adding to the office at that pre-existing setback, so it's pre-existing, but it's being exacerbated with the expansion.
So are they grandfathered?
The existing office is grandfathered, the new one is not.
So technically, the new one should have a 100-foot setback, which is why they're asking for the variance.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
But the new office is the same distance to the road as the old office?
Correct.
Correct.
Okay, that makes sense now.
We're just looking for uniformity.
Right, right.
You just want a regular flat front instead of a jagged, okay, I get it.
With those variances, with the getting to the sides, I always like to get on the record, we do meet the building coverage standards and the impervious coverage standards.
Yes, we do, but we're below the maximum permitted.
Okay, wait, did I hear the answer to your question about, yeah, that's all right. Did I hear the answer to your question about where's the 20-foot variance setback?
On the
Yeah, it's on
westbound side of the property, near the solar farm.
That little
Okay.
piece of green, yeah,
The warehouse building.
yeah.
The warehouse building, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
We thought it was best to err on that side.
Okay.
There's nobody to your other side right now, correct?
No,
It's
but
develop-
it's
developable.
developable
Yeah.
property. It's
Yeah.
find it unlikely the solar farm would go anywhere. but,
So you're
who
not,
knows?
so you're still 50-foot setback on the left side of the property, the eastbound side of the property.
We're more than that.
Yeah, they,
Left side is 50.8.
50.8, that's what I thought.
50.8.
It's supposed to be 50, so that's .8.
Okay, so
Yeah.
barely conforming.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not changing
Okay,
setback on the left side.
fine.
and by expanding the warehouse and creating that 20-foot setback, it really does create the two variances, because it creates the single yard setback as well as the combined yard setback.
There is presently a combined yard setback, isn't there, or am I misspeaking?
You're right, I'm sorry, so
Yeah.
it's making it, it's exacerbating.
It exacerbates it,
Correct.
yeah,
Yes.
but it does exist.
So then, one more question. So you had said that there was 120 feet required and you had 103? Which side was that?
The combined side yard was 125 feet required. Currently, we're at 103.
Okay.
And we're increasing or exacerbating that variance because we are now at 70.9. So we are reducing that.
So you're going down even further then?
Yes,
Okay.
correct.
Was that 103 feet granted by variance when they did the original site plan, do you know?
It was designed that way,
It's a-
Ms. Mertz.
it's
I
a
can only, yeah, I'm pretty
Pre-existing
sure that was part of the,
non-conformity, yeah. Yes.
Yeah, that was approved by this board.
right.
Yeah, I think we only had one or two variances, so I believe it was that.
Those extra 33 feet or 32 feet that you need, is it like sideways, upstairs? Where, like the buildings are going to be wider? Or you're going to be
Yes,
in line with all the buildings?
I want to say this is the tan rectangle, that's the existing warehouse, then the
Uh-huh.
darker brown. So it's almost like an L, if you will. It wraps around the side of the existing warehouse. So that
So that's what
little
the 23 feet.
frontage is now moving closer to the side yard, yes.
Okay, is that in line with the buildings on the front too?
That,
Like
it's
the
in
buildings?
line with the warehouse building.
No, the other buildings.
No, the other buildings have a larger side yard setback than this.
And your architect's gonna be able to speak to why you need that extra left-right expansion, right?
Yeah, what we're doing is we're proposing to put a 14-foot overhead door for access for the other equipment to get into this building.
Where we see a dark line between new and old, that's not a wall, that will be no wall in the future?
No, that'll remain. The architectural plans show that there will be one opening for cross-access.
Okay, but not just a full opening.
The roofs
No.
don't match either, right?
No, the roof will not match.
That's what I thought.
Right.
So you're having two different roof lines.
Two different roof lines. I believe the architectural drawings will show that. And we have interior roof drains to collect the runoff.
And that 23 feet on the side, what is it going to be used for? This is all walls all around, it's just part of the storage? You're going to open up the wall from inside to make it all open area, or?
No, it's not. The warehouse will remain, they're almost going to be independent, but you're going to have a cross-access with a door through them, so you
So
can get.
that's why you want 23 feet back and forth, like two lanes inside? Is that what I'm reading it correctly?
No, there'll be one opening, but on the right side, there'll be a 14-foot wide opening for the larger equipment.
Oh, for
To
equipment.
get, yes, equipment to get in.
Okay, we'll see that better with the architect, I'm guessing, so we're putting you in a bad
And
spot here.
there's no activity behind the building at all.
No, that's correct. All of what you see now in the aerial, where the new warehouse is, all that equipment gets taken out, cleaned up. That'll all be grass area like shown on the plan.
Okay, so basically the site now will be looking a lot neater then.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Organized, yes.
And I think that was sort of Ron's design, was to maximize that interior space by getting closer to the solar farm so we can get everything inside.
Okay.
But Jim will speak to that.
Any other questions from the board or our professionals for this?
Did you say we're gonna lose one parking spaces?
What, yeah, there's 20 that we're proposing now in that row. But we're gonna lose one when we add our second handicap space, or ADA
Is this
space.
gonna kick in a variance?
No, because we have the EV spaces,
That gives you,
the credits, that's right.
your
So
plan doesn't show where
we
EV
are going
spaces
to,
are.
correct, and I didn't know that. So we're updating, we will, as
You're
part,
up to
we're
show
gonna update
EV,
everything to show.
And the EV one counts as two, makes up for the one.
Yes, and that, which was good for us, because now for that second ADA space with the van accessible striping, it helps.
I don't know why it's 2-1, but it's not me.
Yes, the DCA.
I have nothing further for Ron.
Okay, well, at this time, we'll open it up to any members of the public. Any member of the public have any questions for this witness? Seeing none, we'll close the public question portion, and you can proceed with your next witness.
Thanks. I'll ask Joe if he can join me up here.
Matt, while we're waiting for that, I have a brain teaser that we got involved within another town on this exact topic. What if your EV charging, sure, what if your might be good material. What if your EV charging station is in a handicap spot? Is that triple credit?
You're required to have one, so.
They should make that 4-1.
I don't know. It's, we're dealing with it somewhere else. All right, go ahead, please.
Thank you very much. This is Joe Primiano. It's an architect. So if I could, I would ask that he be sworn and place the credentials on the record.
Sir, raise your right hand and be sworn to either swear or affirm that any testimony you give in connection with this proceeding will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth.
I do.
And state your name and address for the record. Please spell the last name.
Joseph Permiano, Primiano.
And your address, sir?
26 Old Trenton Road, East Windsor, New Jersey, 08512.
Joe, is your license in New Jersey an architect current?
That's correct. I graduated New Jersey Institute of Technology in 2001, received my license in 2007. I currently operate my own practice. My license is current in New Jersey and 10 other states. I've served and testified before numerous boards throughout this state, including this board plenty of times. I'm filling in for William Duran, who prepared the plans and elevations and renderings.
Okay, that's acceptable. Please
Thank you.
proceed.
Thank you. So if you could, you heard some of the board's questions, maybe backtrack a little bit, describe the layout of the buildings.
Sure.
And then you can answer some of those questions with regard to interconnection.
I guess I would put up the first architectural sheet. Yes, I think it was A. I think it's sheet A1. but-
Well, it's the exhibit number.
Exhibit
Yeah.
A11.
Does it look like this?
Yeah, that's correct. Yes. So what you're looking at there is two floor plans. The floor plan on the bottom is the first floor. The plan on the top is the second floor. What's existing currently is only the first floor and the left half. So currently, there's an existing, there's several offices and one bathroom on that front left space. The intent is to add more office space to this building, significant amount of office space for the growing staff. So the first floor is being doubled in size. So there's another 1260 that's being added to the east side, which would be the right side on this drawing. And then the second floor, which is shown on the top of the drawing, is entirely new. That will also consist of additional offices as well as 3 bathrooms. And then on the bottom floor, there's also 2 additional restrooms. So there'll be a total of 6 restrooms. As testified, there's a lot of women and there's a lot of men that are working in these facilities. So they've provided enough restrooms to be able to handle that occupancy. And then there's a stair along the backside. You could go to the next sheet. So we're looking at 2D elevations, and I'll go into a little bit further detail when we get to the color rendering. The 2D, you're just looking at the front elevation on the bottom there, and then you're looking at the left and the right elevations. Again, you can see that it's a 2-story building. There's windows across the front. There's an entry towards the left, stone veneer, stucco face, and I'll go into some more details. It'll be better looking at the renderings. You can go to the next sheet. So now we're looking at the rear building. So the rear building existing is the lower left rectangle that you're looking at. I believe that was the 9,600 square feet. And what's happening is again, it's a 1-story building, gable roof, metal roof, metal side panels. I believe it's like a tan color with a green roof and accent. The expansion on this is towards the back, so that whole upper part that's shown on the drawing there is all new. And then, as testified by the engineer, the new building is wrapping around down the east side and coming along that existing building. What's incorrect on this plan is there is a wall that is drawn on the right side in that little wing there. That wall's not going to be there because the whole point, correct, that wall's not going to be there. The whole point of adding the large overhead door is so the client can get equipment into that back space. So obviously if there's a wall there, that defeats that whole purpose.
So where is this door located?
You probably got to scroll down a little bit.
That wall's going.
They're gonna drive in the right.
Yeah, no, it's on the same sheet, you just gotta. Yeah, so there should be a door.
Going here.
Yes,
Yeah.
so there'd be a large
Going.
14-foot overhead door, which will then allow equipment to be driven in and into the back new portion.
The front wall you're talking about.
The front wall, there'll be there'll be an overhead door.
of white here.
Right.
There'd be a 14 by 14 foot door right there.
Right.
Correct.
It says 14, but doesn't draw on 14.
It'll be 14.
It'll be 14.
Yeah.
And you could go to the last sheet. So this is three elevations of that back building and an isometric. What you're looking at is a double gable. So on the right and left elevations, what happens is there's just a large building. It's I think it's about 26 feet tall. It's a gable roof. The intent is to just duplicate that and match that. And you can see that there's just 2 gable roofs that go all the way across. And then across the top, the elevation that you're looking at is the front elevation. There's 6 existing overhead doors. And the last door on the right would be the new door, that 14-foot door that we were talking about, which would facilitate access to the back of the building.
So is the building gonna mirror each other on the other side, or that you're saying the back side is gonna be completely sealed off, no doors whatsoever?
Well, there'll be one pass-through for forklift, but that's all.
On the back side of the building?
On the back side. Well, so the back side of the existing building, which will then become the middle of those buildings.
But the proposed addition isn't having back doors to the backyard.
The proposed addition.
Correct.
They're man doors.
They're man doors just for fire exits.
Are you, for both buildings, are you cladding the outside since they're shown as seamless and conforming architecture?
So the existing building, we wouldn't have to re-side it. We're just gonna butt up to it and keep the
match
same
it.
materials.
Okay.
Yeah. And then same with the roof, there'll be another gable roof. It'll be the same roof materials, same panels. It'll go all the way across, and then there'll have to be some roof drains in between those 2 gables. And from the front, you can see the front elevation. You wouldn't even see the new addition except for that little portion on the right where the new 14-foot door is.
So the gable roof line is going to be the same height
Correct.
on both buildings?
Yes. Yes, they're the same. The new part is the same depth as the existing part, so we can match the roof pitches, and which would in turn, because they're the same depth, would match the heights. And you can see on the left elevation and the right elevation, they're both the same.
What do you do?
Go ahead. No, sorry. Go ahead.
What do you do about snow in between the two roofs?
We make it strong enough.
That's it?
Well, so what's gonna happen is, I mean, you are gonna have some snow drift in there. So there'll be some cricket roofs in there, which will pitch to interior scuppers, just because of the length, it's 160 feet long. But the snow drift, yes, that'll have to be accommodated, and accounted for when they do the structural calculations. The roof trusses will have to be designed accordingly. And the existing roof trusses, they might also need to be stiffened up. Because when you get into the structural analysis of some of those roofs, there is some requirements for drifting.
And is the roof gonna be like slightly sloped so the water goes towards the back, towards the swale, or how is that gonna work?
Well, so what happens is when you have two roof pitches that are pitched together, you put another roof in between it, they call it a cricket, and it's pitched the opposite way. So water's always going to a low point. So if you walked, like if you were walking between that valley and you walked the whole way, you'd go up and down and up and down probably 4 times, and at those low points would be a roof drain.
So my question is, that back building that's the new warehouse, anything going in and out of that back portion has to come through that 14-foot door, correct?
Or the small connection where the forklift would go through. But yes, for the most part, yes, like the bulk of the items are going to go through that 14-foot door.
That was the design, to create that 14-foot door
Correct.
to allow access for the
Correct.
larger equipment.
And that's based on what the client's looking for, operational.
And where are these roof drains going to? They're going under the building, traveling to where?
Yeah, they were going to have to connect to the stormwater system.
From under the building.
Yeah, well, they would probably be piped, because the new addition isn't there yet, they'd probably pipe them first underneath the slab before they pour the slab. And then that way, once they pour the slab on the new part, the piping's already done.
And you're saying, Matt, you're saying that the groundwater table is high here?
We saw it on the report, just where the porous asphalt proposed.
Okay.
It looks like the water table was high, but they're gonna look in, they don't think it is, they're gonna figure it out.
Because they had a lot more water coming down. With the boat pitching into
The
that.
roof drain goes into a different system, has nothing to do with that. Right.
It's a common swale.
The community pond.
I mean, it could almost be looked at as a reduction, because if the roof leaders aren't, right now, it's just going onto the grass.
There's a whole
So all those
drainage
roof
system.
leaders would actually be piped in and would take it to the storm system.
Whole drainage system is for the roof drains, the whole new pipes and all that, so.
Is the drainage system around?
Yep.
If I can go back to Tara's question about the one door entering to the new part of the warehouse, and is the purpose for that, and again, this is what's triggering the variance, it's why I'm asking, because of the structure that we're talking about with this unique roof system, does it not make sense to have an interior door and keep the building shorter to meet the setbacks, or is that really necessary to circumvent that situation? Or is it an interior operational thing that the applicant has to talk to?
I can address the question. Yeah, if you, probably come up if you're going to address that question.
The reason we want to,
Here, Brian.
oh, sorry.
Just so you're on the record.
Thanks for the question, McKinley. We definitely want to, your question's in 2 parts, right? We want to have the 14 by 14 door so then we can access, and we're not taking away from the existing space already, so then we can use the access out there. The reason we want to just put one door in that building is we don't want to have mechanics walk all the way outside to go back around to do that. So it's just functionality to make sure that they can still get back there and not have to walk around and walk outside.
Okay, so it's from an interior, what's happening interior to your building, because you're storing different equipment in there, it would be difficult, your testimony is it would be difficult to bring in the new equipment
Correct.
that's going to the back building because there's existing equipment there.
Yes.
So this is supposed to bisect that?
Correct.
Okay,
Interior circulation improvements.
Yep.
okay, thank you.
It's almost like a driveway there.
Yeah, it's come back
Yeah.
in like a driveway, yeah.
Do you want to look at the rendering?
Yeah, you can put up the rendering and.
A14?
Yes. So that's a 3D image of what the front building would look like. Currently, you could see on the left side there's a little piece of the existing building that's the current shop in the back. It's the front building, but it's the back portion of the front building. The current office looks very similar to that. It's a tan and green building where the 3 offices are. Currently in this rendering would be your left bottom window, the entry doors, and then the right window. That's kind of where the existing office space is. So that would all be altered, so it would all look like this now. So the 3 windows above are all new, and then all 6 windows to the right side are all new on the first floor and the second floor. The design ordinance requires certain facade interests, certain materials. There's requirements for aligning windows, which we did. There's requirements for cornices and decorative detailing across the top, which we did. There's an entry canopy to define the entry location. The parapet at that entry also steps up to give you a little prominence of, hey, this is the entry. It's hard to see with some of the landscaping, but there is a stone veneer along the bottom with a water table, limestone water table. Again, it's also requirement in the, or request in the ordinance. Low E glass would be installed. There's also requirements to keep the left and right elevations matching the front, which we did in this case. So that nice looking front wraps around both sides. And pretty much this new office, you don't even see the shop anymore on the back side. The only piece you'll see is that little tan and green part that's sticking out the side there. You can see there's black windows. It's a light gray, stucco siding, and then there'll be like a dark gray stone veneer.
Thank you, Joe. I have no further questions for Joe. He's available to the board and public for any questions you might have.
Anything further? I'll open up to the public. Any questions from the public for this witness? Seeing none, we'll close the public comment session. Your next witness, please.
Thank you, Joe. If I could, I'd like to call up John Ray just briefly. We submitted a traffic statement, and I think the board's entitled to have a statement from John on the record as to what his findings were. So, same thing, swear in, credentials.
Before we get to your next
No.
witness, I want to ask a question of your court reporter. How you doing? Do you need a break?
I'm good.
Okay, if you're good, then we're good.
We've been doing this for a long time. She gives me signals. She lets me, I usually get one of these, you know? Like, okay.
We'll keep our eyes
I
on
thought it was one of these.
Sometimes she throws her shoe at me if I'm not listening.
I'd
Either
like to
swear or
see
affirm
that.
that any testimony given in connection with this proceeding be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Name and address.
John Ray, REA, a principal with McDonough and Ray Associates, 1431 Lakewood Road, Manasquan, New Jersey.
John, all your licenses are current. You've testified in front of this board, I think, a few times.
I'm a professional engineer with a specialty in traffic engineering. My licenses are current, and I have testified before this board before.
One of the township's important checklist items is to have a traffic statement. Your office prepared a traffic statement. If you could just give the board a brief overview of that.
Sure. Well, we went out to the site to establish existing roadway and traffic conditions in the area. As everybody knows, this is part of the Moto Business Park, and the access comes out to Prattle and Way via Wright Drive. There are several other businesses. I'm in and out of there all the time because of our affiliation with Crest Engineering. So at any rate, we went out to the site to establish the existing roadway and traffic conditions, but most importantly, we looked at the expansion of the warehouse and the office space with respect to how much additional traffic it would generate. As the applicant has testified to, really the expansion is being done to accommodate their existing needs, but there can always be an assumption that when things are expanded and their business is growing, there might be some additional traffic generated by the expansion. So what we did was we took the square footage of office space and the square footage of warehouse space that's being proposed, the expansion part of it. We went to the Institute of Transportation Engineers trip generation manual, and I can tell you we're going to generate approximately 9 additional peak hour trips during the morning peak hour 12 additional trips during the PM peak hour, and so there will be, in my expectation, some minimal increases in traffic, probably as a result of the expansion of the building, but looking at the square footages of the office and warehouse space, that's how we did the calculation. It will not have a significant impact, in my opinion. And we also looked at the site plan with respect to the parking. There's been some testimony put on the record that with our couple of EV, electric vehicle charging stations, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Ron, we're going to have 30 parking spaces and 28 are required.
Correct.
So we're going to have 2 surplus parking spaces at the end of the day. So we will meet that requirement. And that's basically it.
Thank you, John. I have no further questions.
One of Matt's questions on 4A4 is a question about the type of vehicles for product delivery. Is there anything that we
What's
need
the
to know
largest
about that?
truck that would come in and go there?
I think Brian would probably be better able to answer that.
Yeah, we get a once-a-week delivery from Bellamar with it's an 18-wheeler truck that comes in, usually comes in overnight and usually unloads first thing in the morning between probably 6 and 7 o'clock.
There's an 18-wheeler that comes through here, comes back out.
It comes through, it stays on it stays,
On Wreck Drive?
he usually will come on Wreck Drive, and then he'll usually, he doesn't pull all the way in, he pulls into our driveway, kind of backs in, and we'll unload him with the forklifts.
I couldn't tell how that could make the turn.
No, it doesn't come all the way in, and like I said, it's usually not during other people's business hours.
But that's happening today.
Oh, yeah, it's been
It's not
happening
changing.
it's been happening for years. And we've actually cut down on it, because what we've done is, we've done more truckload deliveries to our customers, so then we never have to actually take it in and then bring it back out. So it used to be more than once a week. So we're actually cutting down on that.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Did we see that one-way driveway out will become 18 feet as required by ordinance?
Yes. We're going to widen that 16-foot driveway to 18 feet to meet the ordinance requirement. Yes.
Any questions from board members or anything further from our professionals? Okay, seeing none, please proceed.
Do you want to open it to public?
Oh, sorry, yeah.
Yeah.
Did somebody
Just to
show
stay
up?
consistent.
If there was anybody here, they'd have a question for the traffic.
Judges are
I officially open it up. Any questions from the public? Seeing none, we'll close it. And thank you, Assistant Chair.
I had a judge remand a case because on the record, the planning board members didn't say that they read the transcript. They signed certifications, but because they didn't put it on the record, he remanded it. So, you're doing the right thing.
Yeah, we'll try to stay on the right road.
Sir, raise your right hand and be sworn to either swear or affirm that any testimony you give in connection with this proceeding will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth.
I do.
Name and address, spell your
James
last name.
Higgins, 14 Tilton Drive, Ocean, New Jersey. I am a licensed planner in the state. I've been licensed for over 40 years, and I've testified as an expert in the field of planning before this board and the zoning board in Millstone Township on a number of occasions, as well as numerous boards throughout the state, superior courts also throughout the state.
Okay, that's satisfactory. Please proceed.
So, Jim, we have some bulk variance relief that's part of this application. As I said at the beginning, there's some that's existing, there's some that's existing that's
Yes.
being exacerbated, and there's some new. So if you could just take the board through your prep and your
Yes.
analysis.
Yeah, surely. Well, I've looked at the application, I looked at the ordinance. I'm familiar with Wright Drive, I've looked at the site, I've testified on other sites on Wright Drive in the past, so I know the area. There are 4 variances that are basically necessary. One of them is the existing lot width, which is not being changed by this application. 250 feet is required, 246 feet exists. Again, that's not being changed by the application. The front yard setback is an existing condition that is being exacerbated by extending the office building further to, I believe it's the east.
I believe that is east.
Yeah, to the east, and doubling the size of the office building and also extending the height. And again, that was a conforming situation when the application was originally approved and the ordinance was changed. In my opinion, I think functionally, it's much more appropriate to put the additional office building adjacent to the existing office building. And aesthetically, I think it's a significant aesthetic improvement by having a very attractive office space in front of the warehouse space. So I really think in terms of aesthetics, in terms of function, I think it's a much better planning solution than trying to relocate the other offices somewhere else on the site and basically creating a situation that is much less efficient for the operation of the business. As you heard, the intent is to consolidate the office space on the one site rather than have two separate sites with a separate office space in another location, which is an inefficient operation, both functionally and financially for the applicant. So I think it's something that helps this applicant stay on this site and stay in Millstone. And so I think it's a definite benefit. With regard to the side setbacks, you've heard the reason for the increase in the building on the one side of the building. That's about 32 feet is being extended. Right now, the setback on that side is about 52 feet, and the building will be 32 feet, so you'll have a 20-foot side yard setback. The intent there, again, is to increase the efficiency of the operation of the back building and to allow the larger equipment to be accessed through a new door that's going to be constructed on the front of the building that will actually match the other doors on the front of the building. I don't see any substantial negative impact to that. It's actually adjacent to the solar farm. And the intent of your ordinance with regard to requiring setbacks, minimum setbacks, is to provide for adequate light, air, and open space. And there are no buildings that are going to be constructed on the solar farm. The solar arrays are there now. They're about 6 feet in height. So by having the building 20 feet instead of 50 feet from the side property line, again, will not substantially negatively impact the provision of light, air, and open space, and it will provide a significant benefit to the applicant in terms of allowing him to have the space he needs for the internal operation of the building, to move everything inside of the building and store it inside of the building rather than outside as is currently being handled. So when I look at that, I think that there are positive reasons for the granting of the variances. First of all, in terms of the purposes in municipal land use law, Purpose G talks about providing sufficient space in appropriate locations for a variety of uses, including industrial uses, and that's what's being done here, particularly since the expansion does not increase the building coverage or the impervious coverage over what the ordinance maximum permitted by the ordinance. So it allows the applicant to have sufficient space in appropriate locations. With regard to municipal land use law, goal I, to provide for a desirable visual environment. Again, I think by cleaning the site up, getting everything inside the buildings, and having it look much nicer in terms of the appearance of the site, and by putting the office building, the office expansion in front of the building, which I think will be a significant aesthetic improvement. I think it advances that purpose of the municipal land use law. And finally, to provide a more efficient use of the land and more efficient use of the property. And that's another purpose of the municipal land use law. So when I look at that, I think there are substantial benefits to the granting of the variances that are requested. I don't see any significant negative impact. Again, the building, the coverages are below the ordinance maximums that are permitted. The setbacks of the building is adjacent to a solar farm, which has no buildings on it and won't have buildings on it. And the appearance of the building will be significantly improved. So clearly, I think that the benefits do substantially outweigh any potential detriments.
And Jim, I just want to ask for one clarification, and maybe I missed it. When you're talking about the 20-foot setback and the proofs in support of that,
yes.
Yeah, subsumed within that is the increase in the setback for both
That's
yards, because it's only
correct.
on that side.
Yes, that is correct.
All right, I just wanted to get
Yes,
that on the
I was
record.
talking, yeah.
I have no further questions for Mr. Higgins.
Okay, thank you. McKinley, did you have any comments with respect to the variances in play?
I do agree with Mr. Higgins' testimony on all of them. I think it was appropriate for them to design the addition to the warehouse so that that expansion is on the east side in case the property to the west of them does develop. I agree the purpose of setbacks is to provide for light, air, and open space, and they do not have any neighbors to that east side, and there's no indication that they will. If someday, 50 years down the line, the solar farm goes away, that building will be existing and any development will know. it's going to be a much nicer looking property with the new office building and the new cladding that they're putting on it, the new materials. It's going to hide a lot of that. I agree that if you're going to approve the one side yard setback, you're subsuming the combined side yard setback into that. They've eliminated 2 variances today, the width of the aisle, the drive aisle, and the parking lot trees. So they had 6 variances, they're down to 4, which is an improvement. And with that and their addition of the EV spaces, I take no objection to the variances.
You also listed in your report on page 6 a couple of waivers required, but we didn't hear testimony on that. Are those correct, and do we need to hear about that?
Yeah, so those, the architect touched on them, so I didn't jump back at them. The ordinance requires roof pitches, which they do meet on the warehouse structure. The office building, they're proposing a flat roof on, which does not meet the 5-on-12 roof pitch requirement, so that's a design waiver. We see this waiver all the time. From a design perspective, I think what they're proposing is appropriate for the area, and I think it's meeting the intent of the design anyways, because it's not, the intent of this is not to have a flat roof, and they are proposing deviations and variations in their roof line. The facade material, the front building is being proposed with stucco siding and veneer. It's a similar, we also see this from time to time, but again, I think it's appropriate here for an office setting rather than the warehouse structures that we often see this standard applied to. I would rather see this with the stone and stucco that they have than the larger side panels that we typically see on a warehouse.
So your point is you're satisfied with those waivers based upon the testimony presented and your thoughts?
Correct, from their architect, yes.
All right, I just want to make sure we touched on
Yeah.
it somewhere in the.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Anything from any members of the board?
Yeah, you have the side door that's 14 feet. Okay, yet the side yard is supposed to be going from 50 to 20, so that's 30 feet that you took in there. So what happened to the other 16 feet? What is that? Is it gonna be like 2 lanes inside? And this is next to the fire lane, I believe, is that correct?
Yeah, I think probably that'd be Brian, because.
So the fire lane is shrinking, or what's happening with the fire lane?
No. Yeah, if I could either have Brian or maybe Ron or the architect, but I would imagine that the girth of the building has to do with the structure and actually constructing it so you can have a 14-foot door, but what do I know?
Correct.
It's 14 feet door, and we lost 30 feet
We
from
also
the
have a
side.
passage door.
There's a man door there,
Man door.
and you need space on either side of the man door, and then you need space on either side of the overhead door as well.
So, and that 20 feet, the leftover 20 feet, that's gonna be the fire lane?
No, the fire lane's in front of this building, not
Feet is
next
grass.
to it.
Not to the side?
No.
20 feet's grass.
Yeah, it's a little piece of grass, yeah, that's what it was,
Grass.
20 feet.
There's grass in there?
Grass.
Yeah, there was a little piece, when they showed the other one, it was a little piece of grass, the 20 feet.
Fire department has reviewed and made the comments, so.
All right, we calm down.
No.
Everybody will work.
Thank you, Matt. But just so you,
All right, Peter, why don't you bring us home on this?
yeah, well, just so that, I
Right.
think your board member is certainly entitled to see that fire lane, that's where it turns around in front of it.
It turns in
Yeah.
the front, right?
Right there, you can see that's our fire
We need
lane.
grass on the side.
Yeah. Firemen seem to be happy with it as long as we comply with all the requirements, which Ron testified we can do.
Okay. Matt, no concerns from your perspective?
No, I think they went through everything, and we have no problems with any of my conditions I have here, there's like 12 of them, so they're regular.
I asked Ron to put on the record, he had no concerns with them.
And there's a soil removal or import approval.
All right, anything further from the board or consultants for this witness?
Yeah, I just have one comment, as if it gets approved, that we add a condition that there's no outside storage on the facility at all.
Okay, yeah, it's good
Yeah,
to
that's
make
good.
sure of that.
Can that be encompassed in Brian's testimony with regard to the staging area as a piece of equipment comes in or goes out, it will be out there?
Right, no trailers, no containers.
Oh, no containers. Oh, yes, no. We can't do
Or a
that.
permanent vehicle.
Right,
more
one
than
day,
20
Yes.
24
permanent vehicle
hours.
more than 24
Yeah.
hours, which is our standard.
Yeah, no,
Right.
there's no issue with
No,
that.
no materials.
No containers.
Yeah, but I'm looking at the Google Maps of this, and I wouldn't say, but it almost looks like a junkyard.
Yeah, we want that to go away. We want that to go away as much as you do.
Okay.
But there would still be that staging area, as Brian testified to.
Right.
That's fine, as long as it's not like permanent
Right.
stage.
No.
We're gonna send Matt out to check, so.
Yeah.
I'm there every day.
Understood.
Okay, I'll open it up to any members of the public for any questions for this witness. Seeing none, we'll close the public questioning period, and at this point, I'll open it up again to the public for any comments on this application. Seeing none, we'll close that public portion. Also, any further witnesses?
I have no further witnesses. I really don't even have a summary that I don't think is necessary. I think this board went through all the questions and answers. You're a local citizen, a business in town. They're looking for some relief to expand their business. So I would ask that the board act favorably on the application and include in the relief that we can work with Matt on the soils and file that application after without returning to the board.
Okay, thank you. Unless there's anything further from the board or our consultants, Mike, is it appropriate to proceed to a motion?
It is indeed.
Okay, so then we're looking for a motion.
Potential conditions.
Yeah, it would be a motion to act favorably on this application with the following conditions. So go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, the request for containers in the staging area has been withdrawn, so that's not part of this application anymore. There will be no outside storage materials, including in that area, that staging area. The applicant will maintain the fire lane throughout the staging area and keep that open. That was mentioned by Matt during the testimony. The applicant will provide 2 additional shade trees, and for the one tree, 18-inch DBH tree that is being removed, they will comply with the replacement ordinance with replacement trees. They are going to provide 2 handicap spaces. They're going to provide 3 EV spaces, which will give them a 2 parking space surplus. The drive aisle is going to be increased from 16 to 18 feet, so that variance request is being withdrawn. With regard to soil importation, they're going to work with Matt to determine what, if anything, is required, and they're going to satisfy the Matt's requirements with regard to that. They're going to comply with the fire department report request, with the shade tree report request. They're going to comply with the technical conditions set forth in Matt Shafai's report, including compliance with the separation between the stone storage bed from seasonal high water table, and confirm that. They're going to comply with the technical conditions set forth in McKinley Mertz report as well. And I think that covers it.
Could I ask for one clarification? With regard to the EV spaces, the way Mike read the condition was that there would be 3 provided. There's 2 there, so there would be 1 more provided. Just want to make sure that we're not going to end up with 5, or we're going to end up with 3.
2 existing, 1
One act, right. Just want to be clear.
Which will meet the ordinance.
Right.
Total, 3 spaces total.
3 spaces total, yeah.
Okay, with those conditions, would a board member like to make a motion to proceed?
I can make the motion.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Thank you. Any further comments from the board on this application? Seeing none, Danielle, please call the roll.
Committeeman Ziner?
Yes.
Committeewoman Zabrowski?
Yes.
Mr. Beck?
Yes.
Mr. Coffey?
Yeah.
Mr. Lambros?
Yes.
Ms. Sinha? Yes. Chairman Newman?
Yes.
Motion approved, 7-0.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Good night.
Have a good evening, everyone.
Yeah, you too.
Nice to be back.
Both of them.
So,
Matt,
Danielle,